Some important news from our friends at Loudwire. All but one of Sleep Token's new songs are currently in Spotify's viral top 50, which is pretty amazing. Sleep Token are definitely having their moment thanks to social media and streaming. In fact, 4 of the 5 new songs they've released for the band's upcoming Take Me Back to Eden album are currently sitting inside Spotify's viral top 50 chart. That is no joke. The Summoning tops all of them, sitting at number 5, while Granite is placed at 15. The other one sells at 25 and 48. So the only one not currently in the top 50 is their most recent song, Vor. So, you know, that might even show up in the top 50 soon. This is pretty amazing because it is very rare that rock bands, you know, end up on this chart at all, let alone having 4 out of 5 singles on that chart at the same time for a rock band is amazing. Before we get any further into the video, have you checked out my Spotify playlist? I add new stuff to it pretty much anytime I find a cool new song, so I update it usually a couple times a week with some new stuff. So if you are looking for new music to check out, hit the link in the description of this video. For those who are not familiar, here's some examples of these TikToks. Sleep Token really did this after a breakdown. The sultry goth girl. I want to make TikToks like this. Like a shampoo commercial. But you know, my TikToks don't do that well. Maybe that's what I'm doing wrong. I need to like slowly cavort while listening to metalcore songs maybe. So that's one of them. Here's another, same part. This is the part that's going viral on TikTok. Gent E-Girls, that's what this is. It's not great, right? I mean, I feel like this is low effort, but it doesn't matter because she's a pretty girl with tattoos, so it doesn't matter. All she needs to do is exist and collect the likes. That's all you need to do, right? But the boys are in the action too. Same thing. Sleep Token really made baby making metal. This is what I find interesting about this band. You know, it's like people talk about them the same way they do talk about Deftones, in the sense of like, it's always like they're always talking about the F word. I know there's a lot of children watching this, so I don't want to use any inappropriate language, but when a man and a woman love each other very much, they give each other a special hug where the man, and sometimes a baby comes out of that hug. People talk about this band as like the soundtrack to that special hug, which I think is kind of interesting. So anyway, you can see the point is lots and lots and lots of TikToks made out of these songs, and they've made it to the Spotify viral top 50, not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times. And still, apparently their actual identities are still unknown. I met them in 2019 when they were on tour with Issues, and I do know who they are. And I'm not going to say, but they were nice. They were cool, chill people. Kind of amazing that their identities are still unknown, because that's pretty hard to pull off. Now, I got to say, I think I was a little bit wrong, but also not wrong. So what I said about this before is this first song, you know, had a little bit of a viral moment, and I was like, all right, well, that's cool, but I don't see it turning into anything more than that. And I was wrong about that. That was not a fluke. I mean, the fact that they had 4 songs, you know, going viral on TikTok with 1 song, that's hard enough. But to do it twice, 3 times, 4 times, that's no joke, man. That is no joke. So I got to give them credit where it's due. I still kind of question whether they will be kind of, you know, the next big thing, in the sense of, when I say that, what I mean is not like the next big thing in metalcore or the next big thing in metal in general. What I'm looking for is the next big thing that like transcends the genre, so that like even normies know about it. So for example, like my 40-year-old sister-in-law from Vietnam listens to Linkin Park and System of a Down. Like, that's what I'm talking about. So do I see them hitting that level? Unless they like really change their music to be more accessible, because their songs are like 7 minutes long, I don't see that happening. I hope it does. I mean, I wish that they're cool guys. I think they're super talented. I definitely hope that they have that moment, but I'm still kind of skeptical that it's going to happen. But you know, who knows? I mean, I was wrong about this the first time, so maybe I will be wrong again. I would say MGK is the best example of that so far. And what it made me think about is this article that I saw the other day from Michael Amat from Arch Enemy. He also used to be in Carcass and Carnage and some other like old death metal bands. He's sort of reflected something that a lot of people say to me in my comments and stuff. So obviously in my videos, lots of times I talk about commercial success, and people are always asking me like, why do you care if metal is popular? Why do you care if like punk is popular? It should be underground. He's sort of saying what a lot of people think. Michael Amat was asked about the different ways in which heavy metal can be inserted more into the popular culture. He responded in part, I don't spend any time at all thinking about that kind of stuff. For me, it's just about the metal, the community, really, and the writing of the songs, the recording, the producing, the playing the shows, then playing the guitar. I don't really think about the marketing aspect of it at all. It seems to change all the time how to get music into the ears and hearts of the fans, and we have good people working on that as well. But then he says, I think metal should be underground. I don't want it in the mainstream, really, not too much. This is an alternative to the mainstream. It's an alternative to all that premeditated, cynical approach to music. I mean, this is something that's from the heart and soul, and I want it to stay that way. And I gotta say, I completely disagree with him on this. I mean, he's a legend. Nothing but respect to Carcass and Arch Enemy. Like, he's a great musician. But I completely disagree with him on that. And for one, this was my first thought as well. Kind of funny for the king of Wacken. So for one, it's not like Arch Enemy is like an underground band. Carcass was pretty underground. You know, in the 80s when he was in Carcass, Carcass was pretty underground. Arch Enemy is not even really underground. I mean, they played to, what, 80,000 people or something at Wacken. So I disagree with him on that. And I disagree with the people who tell me the same thing. The people who say, oh, well, metal's supposed to be underground. Why do you want it to be mainstream? I agree with Morgoth here. A lot of us who make metal want it to be mainstream so we can make a living, get the fuck out of here with that it has to stay underground nonsense. And that's my thought on it as well. So I want to talk about that a little bit because I think this is an important part. Even if you don't care about mainstream success, and if you don't, that's totally fine. Like, there's no reason why a fan should necessarily care about mainstream success, right? Because it's not your job. It doesn't matter to you how popular something is or isn't. But I still think you should care, even if you're not the sort of person like me that thinks about this stuff from like a marketing perspective. And the reason why is this. If you want more music, then you should want people to be able to make a living playing this kind of music, right? Because, you know, your favorite band can't keep making music forever if they're, you know, grinding it out, making $30,000 a year, you know, living in a van 9 months out of the year. You know, a lot of bands break up for that reason. A lot of bands are like, you know what? We love playing this kind of music, but we can't make any money off of it. So we're going to break up because this just sucks. You know, I'm 30 years old. I just had a kid. I can't keep living this way. So even if you don't care about how popular metal is personally, if you want more metal or, you know, whatever, emo, pop punk, whatever it is, if you want more music, you should at least want some of it to be mainstream. That doesn't mean all your bands, but remember, basically a rising tide lifts all boats. And if you think about the times in which metal kind of had the most mainstream success, I think you'll find that those were times in which the genre as a whole really flourished in a lot of ways that may not necessarily be obvious. So as a couple examples of that, back in 1991, when Metallica broke out with the Black Album, that was the time in which everyone said, you know, they sold out, this sucks, they're slow now, they're not thrash, this is awful, thrash should be underground, why do all these posers like Metallica? But that was the era in which a lot of people my age got into metal. So all the bands that you probably love, like Killswitch Engage, Black Dahlia Murder, Lamb of God, God forbid, like that whole generation of metal is people my age who got into it because of the Black Album. And even if you think the Black Album sucks, and if you think that was a sellout album, the fact of the matter is that it got a lot of people into metal who went on to start bands that you probably love. And for all the other bands in the genre, all the thrash bands like Testament and Exodus and stuff like that, they were able to make a living because Metallica brought so many eyeballs into thrash. They were able to make a living in a way that they wouldn't have been able to without Metallica. The next era, metal or alternative music, became really mainstream popular was nu metal, late 90s, early 2000s. So Linkin Park, System of a Down, Limp Bizkit, Korn, Slipknot, you know, all those bands. And that's essentially the era in which all the bands that you like now they probably got into metal. So, you know, whatever, like A Day to Remember, Architects, Bring the Horizon, literally every band now in metalcore and deathcore, the vast majority of them got into this stuff during the time that nu metal was popular. And again, as I've talked about before, people hated nu metal at the time, and I don't like nu metal either. But the fact of the matter is, that's what got a lot of people into the genre who went on to create a lot of music that you probably love, even if you don't like that music. I know you're going to disagree, but I can't help but feel that something genuine about the music will get lost as it seems to reach the most appeal. You can think that, and that might even be true, but here's my point. Even if you don't like the mainstream bands, you should still be glad that they exist because of what they do for the genre. Even if you think nu metal sucks, the fact of the matter is that it got a ton of people into metal that otherwise would have never heard about it. Like, what if metal was just always this underground thing that only, you know, 5,000 people scattered around the world knew about? Without Slipknot, without Linkin Park, without Limp Bizkit, these people would have never gotten into the genre and would have never found out about the other stuff. Yeah, the mainstream runs so the underground can walk. Another example of that, after nu metal, I would say the next big thing in alternative music was what I call the mall screamo bands. Fall Out Boy, Panic at the Disco, My Chemical Romance, Paramore, The Used, all that stuff. And again, even if you don't like those bands, that was like a huge, they sold millions and millions of albums, right? They were on TRL, they were winning all kinds of awards. Like, this stuff was huge and still are. Like, Hayley Williams is still like a legitimate, like, mainstream star. Yeah, and before that, like Blink, New Found Glory, Sum 41, the pop punk explosion, all that stuff. You can hate all of that stuff, but once again, it brought new people into the scene, which means more money for the underground bands. So, for example, I remember Taking Back Sunday took out Circus Survive on tour. Circus Survive, obviously, nowhere near as popular as Taking Back Sunday, but because Taking Back Sunday blew up on MTV, they were able to take Circus Survive out and help Circus Survive kind of get a jump start on their career, play to a bunch of people, discover more fans. What if Circus Survive never had that opportunity to be put on that kind of a stage? You know, it would have made their career a lot harder. So even if you hate Taking Back Sunday, the fact of the matter is that they put on bands like Circus Survive and they got a lot of other people into it. For example, like Adam from Lorna Shore, you know, this generation's biggest deathcore band. The bands that got him into this kind of music were like Thursday, Senses Fail, My Chemical Romance, you know, like New Jersey, like emo, screamo, post-hardcore stuff. So you see, like, literally, the My Chemical Romance to Lorna Shore pipeline, like, is real. That pipeline exists in the form of Adam, who, you know, started Lorna Shore. And in the current generation, MGK is going to be that. Again, I know that, you know, I've talked about this before, but it's a fact. MGK, right or wrong, whether you like him or not, you can think that MGK is a total douchebag. You can hate all of his music, and that's all totally valid. But the fact of the matter is that he had 2 Billboard #1 pop punk albums, and he is still in the headlines of the gossip magazines, you know, because of Megan Fox and blah, blah, blah. So even if you hate MGK and you hate his music, you should be glad that he is bringing new people into the genre. There's going to be kids, I guarantee it. There's going to be some kid that in 5 years is in some death metal band. He's not going to say it to anybody, but he got into underground music. The first thing he heard was My Bloody Valentine by MGK. And then after that, you know, he ended up getting into Infinite Annihilator. I'm telling you, that's how it works. So in regards to Sleep Token, I completely disagree with what Michael Amott said, that metal should stay underground. In fact, if you love underground metal, you should be excited about the fact that metal is in the mainstream, because that means that everybody is going to eat more. And so that's why I'm very happy to see that Sleep Token is having this kind of success. And again, 4 songs in the Spotify viral top 50 is a huge deal. Again, even if you hate Sleep Token, I don't like Sleep Token's music personally, but I definitely respect it. I think that they are super talented, and they definitely, they work really hard. You know, they've been a band for 6 or 7 years now. They've been busting their ass, you know, having some success, but nothing like this. So we should be happy that they're having this moment. And I hope that they end up being the next big thing. I really do. I think that'd be awesome. I don't think that's what they want. You know, I don't think that they would be playing 7-minute prog songs in these Elden Ring costumes if they wanted to have that level of mainstream success. So I don't even think that's what they're after, but I hope that they do, because every time that we have had this kind of like breakout star in a genre, that's when the most exciting things happen. You know, like metal has been, I don't want to say stale for the last 10 years, but we haven't really had any big breakouts in metal, you know, probably since like the mid 2000s, right? It's no surprise that it's hard to be in a metal band. You know, I just did that podcast with Andy from Monuments and stuff, where he's talking about how difficult it is. You know, he's almost 30 now, and he's like, well, shit, I don't know how much longer I can keep doing this. So we should want Sleep Token. We should want Lorna Shore. We should want Falling in Reverse, MGK. Like, the more, the merrier. I want every band to blow up on TikTok, because I want more kids to come into the scene, which means that they will discover more underground bands, which means they will buy more merch. Like, a rising tide lifts all boats. So I will say, was I wrong about Sleep Token? Kind of. I was not expecting them to have this much of a moment. I thought that the little funky breakdown there in that one song was going to be kind of, I thought that was going to be their moment. And clearly I was wrong about that. You know, shout out to them, and fuck me. I was wrong about that. And will they be the next Panic at the Disco or the next Bring Me the Horizon? I don't think so. But maybe they will. Who knows? We'll see. I hope so. Either way, shout out to them. And respectfully, Michael Amat, I disagree. I am happy to see metal in the mainstream, and I hope that other people will see things that way too. That is my opinion.